Good evening, everyone. We're ready to begin tonight's City of Gardena regular City Council meeting for January 23rd, 2018. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Noting the presence of all council members.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report from closed session?
Yes, a company by the name of Prologis is seeking entitlements from the city of LA for the development of a 500,000 square foot warehouse at the corner of Vermont and West Redondo Beach in the city of Los Angeles. The city of Gardena has been somewhat concerned about the traffic impacts and other impacts that the development might have on the city. And while we don't have any control over the decision made by the city of Los Angeles, we have been in negotiation with Prologis to try to minimize those impacts. Prologis has given us a proposed settlement agreement pursuant to which the city will get $630,000 to mitigate the traffic and other impacts that the development might have. And if the development turns into a fulfillment center, which is where something like Amazon, where they ship directly from the warehouse to the customer, and thus there's a lot more traffic impacts, the city will receive an additional $350,000. The City Council was presented with that settlement proposal by Prologis and approved it by a 5-0 vote. The settlement agreement will be available to the public as soon as it's executed.
Okay, thank you. So next we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, and tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Natalie Cortez and Matani Medina. And once we complete the Pledge of Allegiance, if you can continue standing, because by then we'll be led by our invocation by the Reverend Rai Kiana. So please stand.
Put your right hand over your heart. Face the back of the flag. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Let's bow our head in prayer. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much that we could spend some time here at a meeting. Thank you so much for the leadership here. Thank you for all the people coming out in the city of Gardena to talk about different matters. We pray for guidance, discernment, wisdom in all decisions that are made so that many lives would be benefited because of this. God, we love you. Thank you so much for Jesus, and we pray that we would make many decisions based on your word. We love you, thank you, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
You may be seated. If I could have our two pledgers come back to the front here. So tonight's Pledge of Allegiance was led by two individuals. The first one is Natalie Cortez, who is an 8th grader, and Natalie lives in Gardena, and she is a student at Environmental Charter Middle School, where her principal is Mrs. Cami Kotler, who is the acting principal. And Natalie, would you like to say anything tonight?
Thank you for letting me come do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate you doing it. And can you tell me who brought you here tonight?
My mom, which is over there.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Mom and daughter. Thank you. Also tonight, our Pledge of Allegiance was led by Matani Medina, who is also an 8th grade at Environmental Charter. And actually, both the students are council representatives, and they also both live in the city of Gardena. So, Matani, would you like to say anything?
Thank
If you like.
For inviting me here.
Okay. Well, thank you again for being here. And who brought you here tonight?
My mom and my dad, which my mom's over there and my dad's over there.
Okay, let them stand up or raise their hands or something. Give them a round of applause as well. Well, we thank both of you guys for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys did a great job. Thank you for being representatives at your school, and we look forward to you coming back in the future.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So also tonight's invocation was led by the Reverend Rai Kiyamin. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Please come back to the front as well. I want to read his bio. The Reverend Rai Kiyaina, who Reese, okay. It's spelled R-H-Y-S, everyone. Okay, Reese. And he is the minister at South Cities, Los Angeles Church of Christ at 15610 Crenshaw Boulevard. So the Reverend was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. He's been a Christian for over 25 years. From 2001 to 2012, prior to coming to California, he led the Oahu, sorry, I haven't been in Hawaii yet, Church of Christ, and oversaw the work in 5 other churches in Maui, Big Island, Guam, Saipan, and Myanmar. Okay. From 2012 to the present time, he is serving as one of the ministers in the Metro Los Angeles region of Los Angeles Church of Christ with 6,500 members. He's been married to his wife, Grace, for 22 years. They have 3 children, Kalai, who's 16, Kiane, who's 14 years old, and Kiehakai, who's 10. Would you like to say anything, Pastor?
Turn your mic on.
Thank you. I know those names are a little rough there. They're all Hawaiian names, but thank you for having me.
Can you pronounce them for me?
My kids' names are Kalai, she's 16 at West High, Kainani, she's 14, and my son's name is Keahi Kupono,
Okay,
who
okay,
is
thank
10
you.
years old. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you as well for leading us in the invocation tonight. We
Thank you.
appreciate that. Please give him a round of applause. Okay, so next we are going to do our presentation tonight for our military veteran recognition here. And tonight we are honoring Mr. John Francisco, who served in the U.S. Army as a member of the 104th Airborne Division. And I'm just going to read his bio prior to him coming up here. So Mr. John Francisco and his wife Brenda have been residents of Gardena for the past 20 years. Mr. Francisco joined the U.S. Army in 1955. He was sent to Germany and served as a radio operator in Europe. He was also a member of the 101st Airborne Division as a master jumper. Mr. Francisco was honorably discharged from the Army in 1961 as a sergeant. He is currently the commander of the William Stark Rosecrans VFW Post 3261 here in Gardena. Mr. Francisco, would you like to come to the front here? And I'd also like to mention that tonight he was recommended by Councilmember Kaskanian. One of the other things I want to mention is Mr. Francisco had 107 jumps, 107 jumps from an airplane. So that's pretty amazing.
Well, that's a master jumper.
A master jumper, okay.
I've jumped from just about anything from the sky.
Oh, wow. Would you like to say anything else, Mr. Francisco?
No, I'm proud to be here to accept presentation, whatever you know. And I wish you come to the VFW. It's open.
We will. Well, we thank you for your service as well. And Councilmember Kaskanian, would you like to say anything before you present?
Yes, Madam President. I would like to thank Mr. John Francisco for your service. We do all really appreciate it, whatever you've done to us, to the country. And I have a question for you. What will it take? How many jumps it will take to be a master jumper?
I think it's 56, 57. Oh. 52?
Yeah. So if I jump 52 times out of the plane, I'll be a master jumper too.
There if you land.
No heart attacks?
And if you land.
All right. Thank you very much for your service. And we come to the front and we'll present you your medal. Thank you.
Councilmember Kaskanian, yes, we will go to the front, please. Everyone, please give them a round of applause.
here for 40-some years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
And the airborne that said Geronimo.
Okay, next we're going to move on to proclamations. So this month is Black History Month, February 2018. I'm just going to read the proclamation here. Black History Month is observed nationwide during February each year to recognize the past achievements and current status of African Americans in our country. As it coincides with the birthday of the great black leader Frederick Douglass on February 14th and the birthday of U.S. President Abraham Lincoln on February 12th. The observance was officially established as Black History Month in February 1976. The Gardena Holly Park Youth Affairs Alliance initiated the observance of Black History Month in our community as part of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday commemorative activities, in the belief that the role of history in the life of people is to give them a kind of measurement as to where they have been and where they are now. And if they understand history correctly, then they will have some definition of what they must become. Gardena's annual activities during February 2018 will include an afternoon in the park a celebration featuring the Instagram chefs, college fairs, food truck retail vendors, resource booths, kids area, live entertainment, and more on Saturday, February 24th at Raleigh Park, providing the community with the opportunity to reflect on the strengths of Black heritage and family lifestyle, as well as providing African American citizens with a positive sense of racial activity. So I hereby proclaim, as the mayor of the city of Gardena, as February 2018 to be Black History Month in the city of Gardena, and urge citizens of our multicultural community to take part in activities planned for our annual Black History Month observance. I will probably announce again at the end of the meeting, but there'll be an afternoon in the park on February 24th from 10 to 3 p.m. at Raleigh Park, which is located at 132nd and Van Ness. So I'll announce this again at that time. So next, we're moving on to appointments. Does any member of the council have any appointments to any commissions, committees, boards, or council at this time? If not, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Does any member of the council wish to discuss any items separately? If not, then can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember, excuse me, Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 7 is Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. There are 2 items on here. The first item, item number 7A1. Does any member of the council have any questions in regards to this one here? No? Okay, we'll receive and file. Also, there's item number 7A2. Are there any actions at this time anybody would like to take? If not, we're going to receive and file that one as well. Next, we're going to move on to oral communications, and we have 2 speakers here. The first one is Alla Bailey, and the second one is Cheryl Sherman. Just want to remind everybody that you do have, you can come forward at this time, remind everyone that you do have 3 minutes to speak. When the yellow light comes on, it will alert you that your 2 minutes are up. When the red light comes on, at that time, we'll ask that you'll please wrap it up. So first speaker is Ms. Belay. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Belay. The red button.
Oh. Thank you. Hi, my name is Alula Belay, and this is the first time I'm meeting you all except for Art and Tasha, because I met you at the Starbucks. It's not Starbucks. In the McDonald's when you guys had the Meet a Cop. And the main reason I'm here is because 3 years ago, I was in the Starbucks on my laptop doing work, And I turned around and I had 2 cops in my face. And are you still the current police chief, correct? And you're still currently the head of Public Works Department?
I'm the police chief and acting city manager.
So you're not the Public Works Department head anymore?
Sir, you know what? Your 3 minutes are just to make comments. We don't kind of do back and forth questions here.
Oh, so I can't ask you guys questions?
You can just state those, and during our closing remarks, if we'd like to respond at that time, you can. But it's
Okay.
no back and forth.
So,
Go ahead and
well,
state it.
one thing I want to say is pretty much just prove the point that your officers got found guilty in federal court. They were found guilty of a false arrest. And the weird thing, when the Brown Act passed, when you guys pretty much when you guys conclude a settlement, you have to explain to the public exactly what happened. But it seems like all you guys mentioned was that I was paid $40,000, with no other information given. And I kind of find that odd that you guys don't explain to your actually citizens what your officers do. And
Okay.
another
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. And another funny thing about the incident was that literally you guys broke even more laws with the settlement offer. Because the First and 14th Amendment, the end of it, everybody thinks of free speech, but the last is you can address grievances of your government. And in the settlement offer, they pretty much coerced me into signing. They stated that I couldn't file a complaint against officers, which is odd. If you think that, if you believe in America where you give a pledge of allegiance to the flag and the Constitution, but it seems like what you guys do is the exact opposite of that. And pretty much every one of you is aware of that incident. And ironically, before the settlement agreement, your lawyers even claimed that you guys did nothing wrong. And another odd thing, your lawyer even claimed in federal court after the city was dismissed from the case, not your officers, that actually the city was responsible. So I don't even know if you guys are aware that your own lawyers contradicted the statement. So is anybody aware of that or no?
Again, we don't answer questions here. This is just your 3 minutes to
Oh, so yeah,
state.
this is just for citizens to speak and government
Yes.
officials not to answer any questions.
That's correct.
Which is the normal thing that governments do.
Okay.
Thank you
well,
so
your
much.
time is up. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, next is Cheryl Sherman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Cheryl Sherman, Vice President of Friends of Gardena Willows Wetland Preserve. And I have news. I would like to let everyone know that since social media is the thing, the Friends of Gardena Willows have now caught up to the thing. And we are now on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So, follow us. As of this week. So it's hot off the press. And if you have anything you'd like to share, that's where you can do it. Because we're looking for all your good information. And I'd like to also say that, and remind everyone that the fourth Saturday of every month, the preserve is open for strolls from 1 to 4. It's free. They're self-guided tours. And it's a beautiful right now in the preserve. It's a great time to come in and take your family through. Today I had a monarch butterfly on my finger, which was really cool. Just sitting right on my little finger. So it's a great place to have in our city where you can be in the mountains, I like to say, in less than 5 minutes. Just come to the preserve because it is such a unique place. The city disappears and nature is before you. Come visit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next up, excuse me, is item number 8A1, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor, Serta, members of the City Council, Agenda Number 8A1 is an ordinance number 1785 amending chapters 8.08 and 8.16 of the Gardena Municipal Code regarding safe and sane fireworks. On November 14th, 2017, Mayor Serta directed staff to research the possibility of a fireworks moratorium on safe and sane fireworks to allow residents to evaluate whether the city should continue to allow safe and sane fireworks on 4th of July. Safe and sane fireworks have no aerial effects. That means they don't go up in the air and explode, and they don't explode at all. In 2017, the Gardena Police Department received 163 fireworks calls from June 16th to July 5th, 2007. 45% of those calls were received between 6:30 p.m. on July 4th and 1 a.m. on July 5th. The amendment would authorize council to suspend by resolution the issuance of permits for the sale of safe and sane fireworks in the city in any given year. Currently, the city has 8 nonprofit organizations who sell fireworks at outdoor sales stands and restrict sales from within Gardena from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. during June 28th to July 4th of each year. It's unlawful for any person to discharge any safe and sane fireworks except between the hours of noon and 10 p.m. on July 4th of each year in any part of the city. A moratorium would impact 8 nonprofits that sold fireworks in 2017 in the amount of $32,210 according to our records, and would reduce the city's fees received from the wholesalers by about $8,000. If enacted, a resolution would be necessary to effect a suspension of the sales. Additionally, March 1st is the deadline for us to begin soliciting applications for the fireworks sale, so this is it can be somewhat time sensitive for this year. What's required right now is for the City Council to have a discussion and decide whether or not they want to introduce ordinance number 1785.
Okay, thank you. Before I open it up to comments from the council members, we have a couple of speakers here. Let me just go ahead and bring them up now. First one is Rob Lee with Gardena Valley Assembly. And then after him will be William Horn.
Good evening. Well, obviously I'm here to encourage you guys to allow us to continue to have fireworks in the city. My church and other churches and organizations, nonprofits, definitely benefit from this. It's our best fundraiser that we do, and we're able to turn that money into positive things for the community. We were able to purchase a school bus. We've been able to send students to camps. We've been able to purchase a lot of equipment that is germane to the ministry that our church does, particularly with young people. We've had a positive exchange with community as people come by and purchase fireworks. We offer a little jumper, some popcorn, you know, those kinds of things. Make it really nice for the community. We have benefited greatly from this, and I'm aware that Gardena is one of the few cities that still allows the sale of fireworks. I think it's one of the unique features of this city. I've lived here for 18 years. I plan to live here for another 40, should the good Lord tarry, and I believe that we got a really good thing going here with these fireworks. I'm aware of the concern that some of the people in our community have, believing that the fireworks stands are the cause for a lot of the ruckus that goes on the 4th of July. And I've been doing this for a few years, and it seems to be there's 2 separate issues, because a lot of the fireworks that are going off are not what we sell. They're the stuff you get, you know, south of the border from China or some other place where you can purchase a firework that shoot up in the sky and blow up, or other things like that. That's not what we're selling. So I think there's 2 separate issues there. And I just wanted to be able to, put a face on keeping the fireworks stands open. I believe in it, and I think it's a good thing for the city, and I encourage you guys to consider that, in the decision-making process. I hope that, that you will. I yield the balance of my time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee, don't go far because I'm going to have a question for you in a couple of minutes. If you can just stay towards the front. The next speaker is William Horn. And then after William Horn will be Jesse Carrera.
Good evening, Mayor Sora and council members. I'm William Horn. I live on 153rd and Perch Avenue, and I've lived in the city for 38 years. And over the past 5 or 6 years, particularly, the use of illegal fireworks has increased. It's very disturbing. It bothers our animals, bothers our families, and I think that the sale of fireworks within the city kind of gives your tacit permission for the morons to go out and use illegal fireworks. And I think once you put a moratorium on selling any fireworks whatsoever, eventually that'll go away. It won't be this year, may not be next year, but it will eventually taper off. If you hold a the public displays, and you put your efforts into that, then I think eventually that illegal fireworks will just disappear. Now, to the charity organizations and whatnot, I do understand, their need to make money. But you can do GoFundMes, you can hold dances at the Elks Club, you can do other things to raise your money. You don't need fireworks to sell.
Okay, thank you. Next is Jesse Carrera. And after Jesse Carrera will be Charlotte Lynch.
Hi, I'm Jesse Carrera. I am actually, first of all, Mayor Serta, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to voice our opinions. I don't think we've ever had this opportunity to really come to the council and tell you how we feel about fireworks. I'm against fireworks in Gardena. Safe and sane, even the Raleigh Park display. And the reason why I feel that way is because I know that we spend a lot of money on the fireworks. Fireworks and the security, it probably comes into excess of $50,000 a year. And I feel that that money that we use for the fireworks, although it's a nice thing to have, could be used much wisely in our city. It could be like for the social service programs, senior programs. Kelly has a great program for the youth. I know she even does a Raleigh Park thing, but, I think that money could go to a lot of better things. It could go to the police department. They want to build a new police, building. And I understand that, costs have gone up, and so maybe we don't have enough money. But that money that we use for fireworks in general could go to better use in our city. So that's one thing. The other thing is that, for years in my neighborhood, we used to have lots of fireworks. And on my particular street, 169 Place, it's calmed down. So, but prior to that, we used to be afraid that our house was going to catch on fire because our neighbor right across the street from us was playing fireworks, and the fireworks were illegal, and we would find remnants of it in our backyard. Thank God our house didn't get damaged. But this year, a family that lives on my street, Harvard Boulevard, I live on the corner of 169th Place and Harvard Boulevard, his house caught on fire this year because of illegal fireworks. So I feel like, I know that it's not as safe and sane, but when you have both types of fireworks in your city, it's hard for the police department to discern who's playing what. But if we don't have safe and sane fireworks, and the people that are playing fireworks are going to be the ones that have illegal fireworks, those are the people that we need to find out. We need to find them, and we need to find them and let them know that, they're going to be fined if they play illegal fireworks. That's what burned his house down. And so I think it's 2 years ago in our district, one of my neighbors, who's part of the neighborhood watch group, her sister's house, the guy that lived across from her house, was playing fireworks. And so the fireworks was coming into on their side of the street. So they let our lieutenant know that they were playing illegal fireworks. And he was kind enough to go to that man's house and tell him, you know what, we hear you're playing fireworks. And I think they had evidence of him playing illegal fireworks. And that man, or those people that lived in that house, did not play fireworks the next year because our lieutenant told him, we're gonna pass by and see if you're playing fireworks. So what I'm saying is that if we get rid of Safe and Sane and the illegals are playing the fireworks, you know what? Hopefully, and in time, they'll be found out. And if you find them for doing that, then quite possibly we can get rid of disasters that happen in our city. It'll be a safer place to live. And one more thing. When I was a kid growing up in Hawaii, I was playing with sparklers, and that sparkler we consider Safe and Sane caught my robe on fire. So, you know, it could be Safe and Sane, but there's accidents that happen, too, with Safe and Sane fireworks. So anyway, that's how I feel. And thank you so much for the opportunity to voice my opinion.
Okay. Next is Charlotte Lynch, and after Charlotte Lynch is Omar Jimenez.
I don't think I could have said that more eloquently. Good evening, Mayor Serta, council members, city staff, and residents. My name is Charlotte Lynch. I live in District 2, and my address is a matter of records. And I do thank you, too, Mayor Serta, for bringing this to the forefront so that we can discuss this issue. We now have Ordinance 1785 before us for council discussion and deciding whether or not to introduce it. I've been before the council on 2 or 3 occasions and have spoken to this subject. I have attended the community forums on fireworks and have met with police to discuss alternatives, as well as some of you council members. Ever since we allowed Safe and Sane to be sold, things have gotten worse, meaning I believe that the Safe and Sane have acted as a front to have illegals. The city has gotten out of control with allowing this problem to grow. You members live in the city. Do you feel it's gotten worse? I think you would agree. And we are led to believe it is the same way in other South Bay cities. I beg to differ. I have friends in Redondo and Torrance, and they say they do not have these problems, but they can sure hear ours. Regardless, if they think they have the same problem as we do, that is theirs. Let us take care of Gardina's issues, our issues. In regards to the nonprofits and the monies they make, there are other alternative fundraisers. Let the youth become involved and learn to understand and realize that money doesn't grow on trees. Plus, they would have fun, and it might boost their self-esteem and sense of accomplishments. The residents have tried to comply with the police requests that we turn in and call dispatch on violators. They have literally given up because this has become such an out-of-control issue, and they feel nothing is done. I include myself in this category. When you see children lighting off illegal fireworks and a call has been made, but nothing happens, you become very disgusted and disappointed. Or if you see the police drive by the address you called in and they do not stop. Extra police are pulled in to work the fireworks on the 4th, but my understanding is that they have to help cover the priority calls for the officers working the Raleigh Park show. Perhaps we need to have the show for a couple of years, do not have the show for a couple of years, so a team of officers do nothing but firework calls. Fireworks amount to quality of life issues, safety issues. It affects our military veterans, especially those who have been in combat. It affects our pets. For transparency's sake, I, and I'm sure many of the residents, would like to see a comparison report for 2 to 3 years with the number of extra officers brought in, the cost of the officers and who paid them, the number of firework calls dispatched, citations, arrests, and fireworks confiscated, number of fire or incidents related to them, and the city's profit. Thank you, and I do hope that you will pass Ordinance 1785.
Okay, next is Omar Jimenez.
Hello, good evening, council members and mayor. I'm Omar Jimenez, and I'm Jesse's neighbor that was affected by the fireworks. And people don't think that a tragedy will strike anyone they know, but fireworks have affected many lives. On the evening of the past 4th of July, my house caught fire due to illegal fireworks and caused damage that deemed it unlivable. My family was able to escape unharmed at dusk, but the situation could have easily been worse. Who knows how much more time we had until the ceiling collapsed on any one of us while we were sleeping. Time was ticking while the fire spread through the attic. I don't even use fireworks, but their ferociousness can harm anyone around. Every year, people have to live with the consequences of fireworks, both legal and illegal. Keeping fireworks out of the city of Gardena will not only protect its residents and children that could be affected by them, it will also send a message to residents of nearby cities that come to Gardena to burn fireworks. It will tell them that this city is not their playground to burn fireworks as they please and leave. Every time I see a report of a fire on the news, my heart skips a beat because I know that what those people are going through. Like the uncertainty of not knowing when things will go back to normal, or the aching feeling when you've done an errand and realize that you can't go back to your home because it was damaged by the fire. For that, I hope Gardena bans fireworks outright, and hopefully you guys consider that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions at this time? We're going to start on this end. Councilmember Cascanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple questions to the city manager or the chief. Do we know selling those or issuing the permits for the fire booth that for the organization, how much revenue we get to the city?
Members of the City Council, as I stated, the fees received from the wholesalers is about $8,000.
And do we provide additional police officers that day to patrol the city just in case?
Councilman Cascini, it's not only that day. Generally speaking, a couple weeks in advance, we start with proactive patrols, generally 2 officers on overtime for a number of weeks leading before the 4th of July, and then on the 4th of July, it's called a maximum deployment day. As indicated by one of the speakers, there is a number of officers that are required to participate in the security for the 4th of July, city-sponsored 4th of July demonstration, as well as additional personnel for patrol on that day. It is a very busy night, not only related to fireworks, but just generally disturbances, parties, etc. And unfortunately, the last couple years, we've had some major incidents that happened to land on 4th of July. In fact, in one of the years, a pursuit terminated just adjacent to where the fireworks demonstration was going on. So there's a lot of things that go on that day. So the officers are stretched pretty thin.
I see. To the nonprofit organization out there too, that some of them present over here, I used to sell fireworks too for the Kiwanis Club. We used to have a booth on Artesia Boulevard, and we give up our permits. The reason was it wasn't too much profitable anymore. A lot of manwork, a lot of hours, staying overnight, sleeping there in a motorhome, and it wasn't too much profitable anymore. And we give up our permits. Somebody else took the stand right now. So, it's a $10,000 profit for some organizations. Some of them, I don't know how much they make, but overall average, it's about between $10,000 to $12,000, because I've been in the, in the situation too, and I know how it is. So in my opinion, if they do pancake breakfast or they do any other stuff to raise a fund, that will be sufficient too. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if everyone can just kind of quiet down. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple questions I have and just a couple thoughts I have. First of all, my condolences to the family. That house caught on fire. That's horrible. And on 4th of July, I've also had a pet run away because of the fireworks and everything and all that. The challenge I have, though, in the staff summary is that there were 163 calls from June 16th to July 5, but the Safe and Sane sales don't start till June 28th. So there's 12 days in there where there's no Safe and Sane being popped, and then after that, there's about 9 days where there's Safe and Sane, and we've already determined that none of that stuff has aerial effects. So I'm not sure how many calls happened between June 16th and June 28th. We probably need to get that in the study, but I would like to think that those 12 days, Safe and Sane, is not the issue that's plaguing the city, because we aren't selling them until June 28th. So that's one question. So I'm trying to figure out, of the 163, how many of those were before June 28th?
Councilman Henderson, I also want to put it in perspective. It's unlawful for any person to discharge any Safe and Sane fireworks except between noon and 10 p.m. on the 4th. That's really the only day they can do that. So all of those, whether they're illegal or legal, are in violation of the municipal code.
Thank you for squaring that away for me. So really, they don't really technically start popping until the 4th. However, we sell them beginning the 28th. Got it. So that's one issue. But we do know that the Safe and Sane don't have aerial effects at all. So they actually just happen on the curb and everything like that. And as far as the nonprofits, there's a noise nuisance, and especially around my neighborhood, it's really, I live in District 2 as well. But as far as the nonprofits and their ability to raise additional funds, a lot of nonprofits in our community, they do quite a few things, from fireworks stand, pancake breakfast, dance contest, you name it. So I think they can work that out. I'm just thinking that, well, how long is this moratorium going to be proposed for? Is that hasn't been stated either?
That's something we're going to discuss.
Okay. Because I'm not sure we're addressing the issue by banning the Safe and Sane, in my opinion, but we can discuss it a little further. I just wanted to see how far we're doing the moratorium. As far as our community fireworks show, I do realize our resources are spread pretty thin on that day, but as you look, after our fireworks show happens at Raleigh Park, you look in the neighborhoods, they light up greater than Raleigh Park. So if that's the second part of the conversation, to not have a Raleigh Park's fireworks show, and then I guess we're going to enforce those that have illegal fireworks, what are the aerials, I still don't understand what we're trying to achieve by banning the Safe and Sane, because they aren't the nuisance. I mean, sparklers don't make that much noise. Fountains don't make that much noise. It's always the illegals, loud dynamite sticks, and the M80s that happen around the corner from me that always make the noise, and that probably starts right after Memorial Day. So, I mean, we have a large issue. So I'd just like to hear some more discussion about how long the moratorium would be.
Just briefly, there are two separate issues here. That before you is not a discussion about our community fireworks show. This is strictly limited to the sale of Safe and Sane fireworks. That's the first distinction. The second distinction would be, we are dealing with two distinct problems here. One is whether or not Safe and Sane fireworks lead to the use of more illegal fireworks, and the ability for us to discern which are being discharged, on the 4th of July or before. So there's no doubt, and I think most residents understand, there's a huge problem with the proliferation of illegal fireworks that we're seeing in not only in this community, but all communities.
Okay. We're just going to kind of continue down in this order here. I have two questions for Mr. Lee, if you could just come back to the front. The first question I have is, your group was, I believe it was the Assembly of God. How much did you guys make in revenue last year?
Yeah, we do actually really well. We're in excess of $19,000. I'm not sure how that relates to
Okay.
Mr. Medrano's numbers, but we've done very well.
About $18,000 somewhere in there?
Yeah, well, depending on the year, we've done very well at our location.
Okay.
One year we had the highest revenue of all the according to our TNT representative.
Okay.
So it's pretty significant for us. I mean, that's big time. So
Okay.
it's a really sweet spot for us.
Okay. And the second question I have is, have you seen a decrease in your sales with more of the illegal fireworks coming out now? I mean, each year I'm sure you're seeing your numbers go down, or no?
We've actually improved. I hear the argument, there's actually two separate issues, because the illegal fireworks is what people are complaining about. Our stuff isn't noisy, it doesn't go in the air, it doesn't burn down houses. It's a separate issue. I understand people believe that it's an entry level. If we have this, then this is going to happen. But I would have to say our last 4th of July was probably the noisiest.
Okay.
I mean, it was just like a war zone going off, but that had nothing to do with the products that we're selling. It's, again, separate issue.
Okay, thank you. That was the only question I had for, the two questions I had for you. Question I have for city manager is, can you give me a rough estimate in what we're spending in police overtime from, I think you said June the 16th through the end, I mean, with those extra 2 officers, maximum deployment? Give me just a rough number, doesn't have to be exact, of what we're spending.
Yeah, so every year after the 4th of July, we submit to the city council a report. I don't have that report in front of me, but to the best of my knowledge, I think the range was between $25,000 and $30,000, if I remember correctly.
And that's the additional for fireworks?
Yes.
25.
That does not include the security for our own display.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That does not include the security cost for our own fireworks display, which is a completely different issue.
A separate company that's out there?
No, our city-sponsored fireworks program, that does not include those costs.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that kind of gives me an idea there. And the other thing I know it was kind of briefly mentioned here as far as how long would the moratorium be? We as a council can decide, do we want to do this for 1 year, do it for 2 years? We can start off with 1 year and to see how it goes the first year. And depending on that, we can decide if we want to extend it the following year or if we want to raise the band on the moratorium. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, you know, one of the reasons that I even brought this forward here, and basically tonight we're just going to be, if I can get the council support to introduce this, we're going to open this up to something that we can officially vote on in the coming meetings. But because there's been so many problems over the past few years, and it seems like the community is just at their wits' end here, we tried working with educating the community as far as you know, limiting the hours of when you can discharge the fireworks, but it's just so hard to differentiate between the safe and sane and the illegal ones. And I know it's hard for our officers and our fire department out there when they're, you know, people have both, and you can't really stop it. It's just so hard right now. I think I mentioned this past year we had a dog that jumped through a window when it heard something discharged. Some type of like a M80 type of firework. We have our seniors who are scared to death. I get phone calls all the time. I mean, it's just so bad. I mean, it sounds like you're in a war zone. Not to mention our veterans who are, you know, coming back from the military and, you know, hearing the sounds of this, and those especially who are dealing with, you know, PTSD. And it's even scary, even at my age, driving down the street. You're kind of weaving in and out of the street because people are throwing fireworks, you know, just in the street, every direction. They don't just shoot them up. Sometimes they shoot them back and forth at the houses. And I even saw that on the news. So it's really scary. It's gotten out of hand. And I think probably the biggest thing for me is when I hear residents come to me and say, I actually have to leave the city on the 4th of July and go to a city that doesn't have it just to be able to enjoy that day. It's very disheartening to me. So that's the reason why I think it's important for us to bring this forward. And tonight we're just going to be asking to introduce the ordinance. It's going to come back for even more discussion, and I'm sure more nonprofits will want to come and mention, the benefits of having this here, but it'll also give the people opportunity as well to speak their concerns if you're against it as well. So I'm just going to go down this road, and then I'll come back to you. So that's all my comments I have at this time. Mayor Pro Tem Medina, you had a couple of comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a Vietnam veteran and also a combat veteran, the 4th of July is not a great day. I'm all for eliminating fireworks completely. And one of the reasons is, for some of you, I don't know how many here have ever been in combat, but the faraway noises are more, they have more of an impact on you than the closer fireworks. The problem that we have in the city of Gardena is that we're only 6 square miles. We're 3 by 2, and all the surrounding cities around us are using illegal fireworks. Not that the city is using them, but people who live there are using them. NBC News was on Mount Wilson, and they showed all the fireworks across the LA city. And it looked like a bunch of Christmas lights going off. There was not one time where there was a second in between the lights sprinkling off. And they were saying there was about 250,000 fireworks that were spotted from Mount Wilson alone. That doesn't include the San Fernando Valley, but the point is that illegal fireworks are rampant. And if you have a city that provides safe and sane fireworks, they're going to go there right away, because it's hard to find out where those M80s are. It's hard to find out where the quarter dynamite sticks are. And quite frankly, I know about 40 or 50 veterans that were in combat that get drunk that night, and even then, they don't survive the night without being awakened by fireworks. Not safe and sane, just the M80s, the quarter dynamites, the dynamite sticks for that matter. So I'm all for eliminating fireworks here in the city of Gardena.
Question? Councilmember Tanaka, did you have a question or a comment? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This definitely is a choice between legal and illegal. But I like what the gentleman said that came up earlier about how when you have legal, it does tend to get people to figure, well, if they're watching the legal ones, then what about the illegal ones? They don't have time for us. It's a kind of a safety thing, too. Where do the legal ones go to set them off with their kids? They stand in the middle of the street. As a resident, I've driven down streets where I've almost run over families because they're out there, and then when they see a car come, they try to run away from it. When I campaigned, I was asked this question about fireworks, and I was adamant about no fireworks in the city. I don't know if that hurt me my first time, but I'm still an advocate of no fireworks within our city. It takes away from our police services, from our fire services. The next day, our public works, and I'm sure Joe will tell you, the public works people have to go out there and clean the streets and sweep up all this residue from the fireworks. As with Councilman Cass Canyon, I was a member of Kiwanis. It was labor intensive to do these things, and that's probably why they don't do it anymore. You had to pick the fireworks up. You had to set up the booths. You had to stay there overnight. You had to have security. If you didn't have security, someone came in and broke into your place and stole your fireworks. At the end of the day, when it's all over, you got to count it up, do inventory, and truck it all the way back to the fireworks place. Alternative fundraising, I think, is a much better idea. I believe that if we get our nonprofits to go out and actually do just other than fireworks, I mean, get out in the community and share your nonprofit and show what you're about, show what you have, and work for it, and people will donate to you. Now, Pastor said that he made about 16,000, 18,000. Looking at my report, you had half of the proceeds from last year's fireworks. If they say that there was only $32,000 from 8 groups. Yeah. So you made a lot of money last year and everybody else didn't, okay? Was that 2 years ago?
Well, his organization has 2 separate stands as well, under different names.
No, just one stand for us. Okay.
You can, go ahead.
So, you know, the aerial stuff, yes, that's illegal stuff. But I do believe that when you have legal stuff, it allows people to say, well, if they have legal stuff, let's take our illegal stuff. So, you know, I'm all for this moratorium, and I'm all for this 3-year moratorium to see how non-legal, how it progresses between stopping it now and allowing our police department to work on the illegal fireworks while we don't have legal ones. Because that's where we need to work on it, is the illegal fireworks.
Mr. Lee, you can respond, and then I'm going to go here. You can respond real quickly.
Let me just say, there may be a little bit of inaccuracy on the profits, but we just have the one stand, sir. So if my numbers are incorrect, I'll retract that. But here's what I will say: this is the best fundraiser that we do any year. And although it's a lot of work, it's a lot of fun too. We get a lot of people involved, so it's just relevant, you know. So.
Okay, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah.
Mayor, sir, the members of the City Council, I also want to put a little bit of historical context of what the city has done over the last several years. I mean, we've tried a number of different approaches, scaling back the amount of time that you're able to sell. The most recent, most significant one is the time when you can actually discharge the fireworks. In addition to that, the city has sponsored a number of community forums. We've done undercover operations. We've tried to engage the community. We've done social media and education. There's been a lot of effort put towards that. And, you know, even despite all that effort, we come back the next year and there's, you know, significant level of complaints about the fireworks. And it is frustrating, I think, at all sides, not only for community but for staff, trying to make a dent in this problem. And you know, when we think we did a good job, we come back with the feedback from community wasn't so good. So it has been challenging on all sides, but the city has tried to be proactive in all levels.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I understand the premise for a moratorium. I get that. I guess what I don't understand is, for instance, in this example, from June 16 to June 28, where we start allowing the purchase, how many citations or confiscations have we had of those that have illegal fireworks? Because the Safe and Sane, quote unquote, have not hit the marketplace yet at that time. So how were we at corralling some of those illegal operators on that?
I don't have the exact numbers, but I will tell you, and we can bring this back for the next if it's introduced to give you a more specific answer. It's very low. The number of citations and arrests are relatively low. We've had the greatest impact on some of our undercover operations where people are selling illegal fireworks. You know, when we take down, you know, several tons of illegal fireworks being sold. But to be quite frank, the enforcement activity is very difficult because, as I've explained in many of the community forums, you have to catch them in legal possession of them, you know, and prove that they're in possession or in discharge of them. And, you know, it's not like they're sitting there waiting around for the police to come by holding or discharging fireworks. They distance themselves pretty quickly.
So in response to that, because nobody's sitting around and standing around, and because Safe and Sane people, as Councilman said, they pop it in front of their houses, you would see them in front of their houses, versus those that pop illegals, you would never see them at all, theoretically.
I think it's probably a mixed bag there. I think they're both doing it. One of the things we also have a problem, which has not been, you can only discharge even Safe and Sane fireworks from your own property. You're not supposed to do it on the street. You're not supposed to do it on the sidewalk. And there's a lot of that going on. As you notice, sometimes the streets are blocked and other things.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, before I open it up to Councilmember Kaskanian and Mayor Pro Tem Medina, I just want to make sure everybody's aware, we're talking tonight about introducing the ordinance, and then we can come back with even more questions, and we can go a little bit more into detail what I believe the questions you'd like to know from the city manager as far as those exact citation numbers here. So if you guys would like to hold your questions until we actually make it a formal, you know, bring this back as an action item, or if you still want to ask your questions.
I have a
go ahead.
question. I mean, why do we have to wait to introduce this for next meeting and pretty much,
That's just the process of it.
It's the process.
It's just the process. We have to introduce it first before we make it an action item.
All right. We'll wait next meeting.
Okay, well,
This would be like similar to anything else. You have to introduce the ordinance and it has to come back for final approval.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
We've been going back and forth, but the long and short of it all is we haven't determined what it's going to cost if we did have a moratorium. I think 3 years from now, we can honestly say, this is the difference between having safe and sane fireworks, and this is the difference with not having safe and sane fireworks. And I feel that we're going back and forth on a non-issue. Let's try that for 3 years, not have any fireworks, and see what the outcome is. That should resolve all questions.
One of the things, let me just say this, because I'm going to introduce the ordinance in just a moment here. Mr. City Manager, I'd like if you could, if we have a couple of options to see if we did a one-year moratorium and then with the option to extend it the following year versus just, starting off saying a 3-year moratorium, because we do have some options here as a council. And if we could get some of those questions that were kind of circulating around here in our staff report as well.
That's understood, Mayor. What I would suggest, and although we did not make a staff recommendation on this item, is that despite the moratorium being in place, there still needs to be enforcement to occur because we do want to attack the illegal fireworks. We could evaluate that year and obviously bring it back to see what substantial changes occurred in the community and have a formal presentation to the City Council in consideration of another extension. So I'll bring several options back to the City Council.
Okay, absolutely. So at this time, I'd like to introduce the ordinance number 1785 so that it can come back as an action item. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so I believe I just need a second. We don't need a roll call for that. We're just introducing that. Okay, so we've introduced the ordinance, and it will come back before the City Council as an action item, and all of you are welcome to come back and bring your signs and voice your concerns, and whether you're, for it or against it, but it'll be coming forward in probably the next month or so. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 8C1. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8C1 is ordinance number 1784, amending sections 10.8290 and 10.28386 and adding section 10.28387 to the Gardena Municipal Code, establishing restricted parking zones on certain city streets in the city. This was introduced by the mayor on January 9th in 2018. This is the third time this item is coming before the City Council. In summary, January 9th, you've introduced the ordinance 1784. Where staff recommended to amend Parking District 4. The Parking District amendments include restricted parking at all times in the streets in District 4 and District 5 entirely. The previous recommendation, parking restriction for District 5, was modified from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. to reflect no parking from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is to accommodate the issue with the school that we had previously talked about to eliminate the congestion, the drop-out zone on Spinning Avenue. As previously reported, we talked about the fiscal impact of $5,000. That's, accurate in terms of the physical cost for a parking district, but there are ongoing staffing and enforcement costs that we estimate the range between $25,000 and $30,000, and an annual cost around $15,000. So I just want the council to consider that as they move forward. What's required is to adopt Ordinance 1784 that was introduced at the last council meeting.
Okay, we have a speaker on this item here. I'm going to let the speaker go first. It's Dr. Rachel Johnson, and then I'll open it up to any questions or concerns you have.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and City staff. My name is Dr. Rachel Johnson, and my address is a record. Well, I'm back again to address the issue of the 24/7 parking restrictions. First, I want to make it perfectly clear that I fully recognize that there are parking problems in North Gardena, especially on the west side of Van Ness Avenue from 134th Place to 132nd Street. I'm here to protest the establishment of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week parking restrictions. Now, I decided to begin researching this issue because what you are creating are private streets within a public domain. You're basically saying that you can drive down these streets, but you cannot park on these streets. I fear that this is a type of privatization that may leave this city open to litigation. As I researched the legality of this 24/7 parking restriction decision, I read an article in the Yale Law and Policy Review titled The Meaning of Privatization by Paul Starr and The Privatization Backlash, which is an online article in The Atlantic. These articles define privatization in the public sector as an appropriation by an individual or particular group, an appropriation of some good formerly available to the entire public or community. This appropriation here is the ability to park on the public streets within my community. Common streets are a part of the public sphere. The general meaning of privatization corresponds in this case with the appropriation or withdrawal of the ability to park on the common street from the perceived public sphere. Now, while my property taxes continue to pay for the upkeep of these roadways, how can you legally limit who uses them? I'm not paying taxes to upkeep streets that I cannot park on. Now, as I've stated before, I know Van Ness has a parking issue. I'm not against a parking district that gives the homeowners relief from long-term parking abuses from neighboring apartments, not just 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I am against a 24/7 parking district in the areas of Cimarron, Haas, and Daleside. There has been criminal activity in the area. I concur with the testimony from area residents. And some skate park users are rude and disrespectful. But these issues are not unique to this particular area, and these issues will not remedy themselves with the 24/7 parking district. These issues are police patrol and enforcement issues and should be handled from this perspective, not creating private streets around a public park. Now, I'm again asking you to separate each of these zones and revisit the unique parking needs and problems that plague each one. City Manager Medrano did it for the zone that encompassed Perchie Avenue School, and it should be done for each of the others. Do not open the city to legal challenges because of your decision. It will be a waste of city money and resources, and we did not elect you to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, in regards to the parking on the east side of Van Ness from 132nd Street to 134th Place, that's still open for available parking, right? That's not covered in the parking zone, correct?
134th Place north is not.
Right.
130 Place, 4th Place.
Adjacent to the park is basically what I was saying. That's still open and available. And the park is still open and available after 10, correct?
The park is not available for parking after 10.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's right. So the other question I had was, did we do the sign study of all those signs that are on the east side of Van Ness yet?
That would be part, once this ordinance is approved, to re-sign all of that area, which is considered in the $5,000 cost for replacement of signs.
One other thing, in regards to 24-hour parking, now the days we won't enforce would be Jazz Festival, 4th of July, and MLK, correct?
Yes, this provides an opportunity for us to bag those signs for special events. I know that the MLK committee was very concerned about that recently and reached out to me. The city has the ability to not enforce the parking districts for special events as it deems appropriate.
Thank you.
Are there any? Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Councilmember Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been contacted by a lot of the sports people that use Raleigh Park, baseball, basketball, large groups that go down there. The 24-hour, how's that going to affect them if they can't fit 200 cars in the parking lot?
Well, I guess that's the crux of the discussion in a lot of ways for those special events. Most recently, Director Fujo talked about how she's going to manage programming at the parks. At the last staff meeting, it's going to be a process of sort of reeling in the park programming and then making adjustments as she moves forward and sees what what can be accommodated in the parking that is within the facility. It's impossible to predict how that will work, but one of the things we're going to have to do is be very mindful and cautious of how much programming that she can do and with respect to how much available parking. As we get a better grasp and this is in place for a longer period of time, I'm sure she will make adjustments to the amount of programming.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councilmember Kaskanian?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So there is a possibility that we might lose some programming and activities in the Raleigh Park.
Yeah, there's the possibilities of rentals, cutting back on some rentals of the different canopy areas and other private rentals for different facilities uses. I mean, that's going to have to wait and see. We had a conversation at the last staff meeting that it's impossible to really give you a finite how many or if any are going to occur, but her and her staff are going to have to monitor that situation closely because they're going to have to find parking within the different parking areas around Raleigh Park or other places that could be farther away where they would have to walk to get to the park. Just keep in mind there are a number of parking areas in the park. There's one off 132nd, Van Ness, and then there's a deeper one that runs east and west on the other side of the park. But at full capacity, there's probably not enough parking for all of them.
So prior for us to finalize this, is there any possibility that we might get some numbers from Director Fugio to give us some numbers that how much money we might be losing by restricting the parking, or?
It'd be difficult to, we don't know what she has to restrict yet, so it's impossible to give you some, definitive numbers. It's going to be an evaluation, in terms of how much what capacity we can maintain at the park. I think as we move along and she has, very detailed records of what past revenue and, we can report back and determine whether there's been any significant loss.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a comment here. In regards to some of the different programs that possibly could get cut back, and this is kind of in response to Councilmember Tanaka and Councilmember Kaskanian, I'm not at the park all the time, but what I do see is a lot of times those parking lots are not totally being utilized. There's still parking on the south side of the park that's available. It just means people have to walk a little bit further, but that's where the parking is available at. It also means that they also have to park on I think that's the east side of the park. There's always open space over there as well. So it's not like, we're taking all of this away. I believe there'll still be room for it. And the other great thing about it is the fact that we're such a small city and, as these issues come before us, there's always room for modification here. So if we see that it's a problem over the next year or so, this item can come back to the City Council. We can work it out here. So I don't see that being a problem at all. So I think moving forward here, I think we have a good plan right now because what's going on right now with the situation over there is going from bad to worse. And I don't want to see community fighting each other like what I've seen over the past month and a half now, where people are angry and going up to the residents saying, why do you want these parking, permits going on? It's going to stop our programs, which is not true. I'm seeing just a lot of dissension going on in the community, which is really unfortunate because we work really hard for the communities to work together. I think this is probably one of the best plans that we can go with for right now. I think the biggest modification or change on here is mainly in reference to Perch Elementary School for the drop-off point. But this is a good plan to start with here. I know in the situation on, I can't remember which parking district it was, but it's from 135th to 139th and Spinning. When those residents were in the same situation here, there were fights that were breaking out. I remember somebody saying, I'm going to pour oil on somebody's car. I mean, it was really ugly. And the people who were leaving trash outside of the cars and just leaving their cars for several days and not moving in on street cleaning days, it was really irritating the residents there. So something had to be done. That situation is working out really good. I mean, I've been monitoring that situation for 5 or 6 years now, and it's working for those residents there. It did take some time getting used to, but I think this will work out really good for the residents on Van Ness. It'll also work out really good for the residents on Haas, Haas, Delside, and Cimarron. So, like I said, if it becomes a problem or it affects the park, we can always work it out here. Okay, so I think we should move forward at this time, and I'd like to make the motion that we approve this item here. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by myself to adopt ordinance number 1784 and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Serta?
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina?
Yes.
And Councilmember Kaskanian?
Abstain.
Okay. Moving on, we're up to item number 9, which is the council items, directives, and remarks. Does any council member have any directives at this time? No? Okay. We're going to move on to item number 9C, city manager remarks, directives.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, just a number of items that was brought up at the City Council meeting or directly reported to the City Council. The street conditions at the railroad crossings, there's a memo in your package. Public Works did go out there and perform some minor repairs. More extensive repairs and upgrades of the railroad crossings does require approval from not only the railroad to pay for it, but also the PUC, which is a long process. But we did make the conditions there, I think, a little bit better, as noted by at least Councilman Tanaka. There is a report, monthly report about citywide projects and developments going on, so it's always good to review those to see what kind of activities going on in our community. It's very positive as you drive around town. There's a lot of construction going on. The traffic complaint that was received on 1233 West 139th Street regarding parking and other things has been addressed, and the memo is in there. El Segundo Boulevard, the property that's at El Segundo and Western, is a continual problem with maintenance issues. We have been reaching out to the property owners to figure out what he wants to do, what they want to do long term for the property, and we've been promised within the next 2 days the graffiti should be removed because it is an entryway to the community. We held our second Gardena Economic Business Advisory Council meeting. It was very well attended, lots of energy, lots of great ideas from our appointees to that commission about what we moving forward. And as mentioned at our study session, economic development is a major priority for the city, and our ability to diversify our revenue base has to be, something that we look look towards the future as being something positive. And we're going to do a little bit of investment on the front end, but we think the return on investment will be there. Just City Council should know, and you probably heard it on the radio, the 2017 homeless count will be taking place throughout Los Angeles County. Gives us a good indication of where we're at on the homeless population in Gardena. And finally, 2 things in terms of going a little bit green. We make hundreds and sometimes thousands of copies relative to council packages and et cetera. And I know Councilman Kaskanian, you were on vacation, so I will discuss with you, but the 2 others who are not using it, Councilman Medina and Councilman Tanaka, have agreed to start using the iPads. We'll start slowly working those in, and it's a good move as we move forward. And I'm sure Councilman Kaskanian will be all in. And then lastly, the presentations that we've been doing in here, we've been rolling out a sort of a temporary TV stand there. We'll be doing some significant upgrades. We got with the seal, there'll be 2 panels over here that will allow not only the City Council but community to have a better view of the presentations moving forward, and just to increase that transparency and engagement with our community. And that's all I have to report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to be at council remarks here. First up is Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report will be brief for once. I was, since our last meeting, I've attended our MLK festivities here along with my colleagues here in the city of Gardena. We had our youth night, great speeches from the youth. The Gardena Multicultural Committee did a wonderful job. The parade is always top notch. I also attended the LA County Federation of Labor MLK breakfast at the convention center. That was eye-opening event as well in regards to how they're actually really acknowledging Martin Luther King as well as Cesar Chavez. I've done some community visits, met with some community folks. I also met with an organization in regards to grant funding. I've done some more due diligence. I'll be reaching out to city staff to see if this is something we also want to pursue. In my community visits, Folks have encouraged me to do open city halls again, so we have to figure out what his schedule is going to be, because I did let folks know that that is a burden on staff on those Saturdays when we do that. So we have to make sure that it's economical for us to do that. But people enjoy that opportunity to give glad tidings, as well as slap me on the hand and slap us on the hand and different things like that. However, I would like to let my colleagues know I do not take that opportunity to malign anyone, even when they want to have issues with my colleagues on the dais. So I say that everybody's accessible. You can send an email to any person on the council, and they'll respond to your issue. The goal is to encourage more community involvement. So we'll see what the schedule's like. We may do that quarterly versus bi-monthly or something like that. Madam Mayor, so ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also will have a short report. I really enjoyed the MLK parade and the Battle of the Bands. I did not get a chance to observe last year, but this year it was pretty awesome. And I don't know who came up with the idea, but it's a great idea. Had representation from various high schools, and the Battle of the Bands was really, really nice. I also attended the Vector Control, which I'm a regional director, and we're all bracing ourselves for the rainy season coming. And the nice part about it is that there has not been any outbreaks of Zika infection or mosquito bites since since November of 2016. So we're very happy about that. We're asking all of you that if you have any standing water, please dump it out, because it's breeding grounds for mosquitoes, and the last thing you want to do, aside from having the flu, is have malaria or even some mosquito-related infections. So please, if you have any standing water, even your pots, where you have the dishes in the bottom of your pots, empty out that water too, because it'll avoid any breeding grounds for the Zika mosquitoes. And I'm looking forward to delivering cakes to the convalescent homes this coming Friday. And so ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is
Wait, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. This is very pertinent because Councilman Henderson is turning 39 again. So we're gonna celebrate his birthday.
Cascanian.
I mean, Cascanian. I'll be almost 50. I know, well, you guys look alike, I can't tell the difference. So Councilman Cascanian will be 39 again, and we're going to celebrate his birthday. So come join us. For those of you who are still here, join us in the MIC room, and we'll sing happy birthday to him.
Okay. Next is Councilmember Cascanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Medina. Just 39, yes, I'll take that. Madam Mayor, since our last meeting, right after the meeting, I left the country. I was out of the country for 3 weeks almost, celebrate the Christmas and the New Year. But I watched the meeting on live stream in France, actually. But anyway, since our last meeting, well, my last meeting, I attended the MLK Youth Night. It was a great program, and as well as the MLK Parade. And I would like to congratulate the MLK committee to put the program together. A great job. And that's will end my report, Madam Manager.
Okay, thank you. And for my report, it'll be short as well, too. Since the last council meeting, I attended the 34th annual MLK Parade, and as always, it was great. And I just want to thank the MLK committee for doing an outstanding job. I'm sorry I wasn't able to stay a little bit later because I also went to attend the Supervisor Mark Willie Thomas's Empowerment Conference down at USC, and there was a lot of focus on emergency preparedness, which I constantly always talk about here. We need to prepare for that. So it was really great seeing all the different vendors that were out there, along with vendors from the county on just a variety of things as far as how you can start utilizing your business, selling to the county, the procurement process, and so on. So there were a lot of great informational booths out there just showing things that the county has to offer. Also, since the last council meeting, I was a speaker at the, on this past Saturday, at the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals for the LA South Bay area out in Long Beach, and it was a really nice event, and had the opportunity to speak with a lot of real estate professionals and let them know that, you know, show your homes here in Gardena, and you know, we would hope that you want to sell them and you know, help us market our city more. And any of your investors who are interested in wanting to invest in our community, you know, we have property here. So it was really great meeting and talking with a lot of the real estate people there. There was probably about 500 or 600 of them at this particular event. And then on this past Saturday, I attended the Okinawa Association of America's New Year's Eve party, and that was out in Montebello. Had a great time with them. This year is the Year of the Dog, and don't know exactly which years those are, but as far as how your birthday falls in there, but it is the Year of the Dog, and they were honoring a Woman of the Year as well as a Man of the Year, and for all of their leadership and volunteerisms for their organization. And then on last night, I attended the Sister City Gardena Sister City Association as I swore in their new officers for their organization for this coming year. And that ends my report. Next up is Councilmember Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So since the last time, sorry I missed the Friday Night Youth for MLK, but I was at the Elks, and we had a dinner for our hoop shoot finalists that competed, so I was there giving trophies and stuff out. But I did attend the 34th annual parade, which was, I had a really great time. Thanks for the MLK Parade committee. You guys did a great job. Thank you, Joe, for now I can drive over and not have to worry about my wheels and front end. And then tonight, they're going to close in memory of an officer that I used to work with a long time ago, a really good guy. And so I'm sure all the guys at the department will miss him. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and my report.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of quick announcements here. I'm going to just read this announcement here. We'll probably bring it up at the next council meeting again because it's kind of very early on. But Afternoon in the Park, which will be on February 24th, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Raleigh Park, where we'll have, looks like a variety of vendors there, retail booths, kids area, and I'm guessing, it's food trucks here as well. Free admission, college fair booths there, and I'm sure we'll mention this again in the month of February, Afternoon in the Park on February 24th. A couple other events that are coming up here. Looks like our ADAP, GDAP group is having an informative event about drugs and alcohol, and that is on Saturday, January the 27th, 2018, from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., and it's at the Hoffman Health Center, which is at the Torrance Memorial Medical Center. So January 27th from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30. I've attended these before. They're great parent summit workshops for the kids as well as the parents to know more about alcohol and drugs, and they also have information in Spanish as well too for parents who don't speak English. Also, I have an announcement here from the Gardena Sister City Association. It seems that they are having a fundraiser on Wednesday, January 31st. And basically what this is if you visit Marie Callender on that day from 11 a.m. to 9 a.m., if you take in one of these flyers here, and I'll see if our city staff can photocopy these and send them in our little lobby area there, then the organization gets 15% of the proceeds from whatever you purchase at the place. So that's for our Gardena Sister City Association. And for those of you who don't know what that organization is, that's the group that we work with that helps us partner with our sister cities in Huatabampo, Mexico, as well as Ichikawa, Japan, which many of us just came back from there in November. So that's January 31st, a Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. when you visit Marie Callender's. And then the last thing here is the Tri-City CERT Association is having a Plan Your Response to Disaster meeting. That's on Thursday, February 1st from 6:30 to 9 a.m., and that's at Gardena Valley Baptist Church, which is located at 1630 West 158th Street in Gardena. And moving on to remembrances here. Tonight, we're going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Gordon Gordy Johnson, who was 81 years old, and a former City of Gardena police officer who retired in December 1993 after 24 years and 10 months of service. We're also going to be adjourning in memory of Mr. Henry S. Matali, Jr., who was 64 years of age and the beloved husband of former Nutrition Service Coordinator Lauren Matali, who worked in the Recreation, Human Services, Parks, and Facilities Department and retired in December of 2016. He is also the beloved father of our recreation leader, Jenna Matali Vasquez, and father-in-law of custodian Santiago Vasquez. We're also adjourning in memory of Mr. Leonardo Villahermosa, who was 84 years old and the beloved father of Secretary Leilani Moore in the City of Gardena General Services Department. Mr. Villahermosa served in the U.S. Army in the early 1950s. He began a law enforcement career with the LA County Sheriff's Department and moved to Inglewood Police Department, where he retired in the early 1980s as a narcotics detective. He was also a longtime Gardena resident until 1987 and most recently resided in Paris, California. So I also, again, want to remind everybody to please join us tonight to celebrate Councilmember Kaskanian's birthday in the MIC room here. And tonight we're going to be adjourning the Gardena City Council meeting to our next regularly scheduled City Council meeting, which will be at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 13, 2018. We are adjourned.